Hi, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Masters Fantasy Football League's Dynasty Spotlight Series. We've done one of these before, but we're going to do another versus show. The last one, if you haven't checked it out yet, it was Jamar Chase versus Devontae Smith, two of the best receivers coming out. So we're going to do the running backs today. We got Najee Harris versus Clemson product Travis Etienne. We're going to kind of start off the show similar to last time. We're going to kind of break down their game category by category, and then at the end maybe make a case for who we like more and hash things out. We want you guys to leave in the comments who you guys like better, any other versus shows you want us to do in the future, and any other suggestions or anything you guys have. We're always ears. And
absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, you wanna dive in? What topics we want to have first?
Let's dive right into it. And I'll say too that just as we're going here, I've got the ETN side of the debate here, and Alex got Najee Harris here.
Ooh, you're going to tell them that already?
I'm going to let you guys know,
All right.
So we'll start with, kind of like Alex said, we'll just kind of go down the line in terms of just skills, I guess. And we'll start with speed. Mm-hmm. This one, to me, pretty easy. I don't really see how anyone could lean Najee here. It seems pretty cut and dry. Travis Etienne, speed, maybe the single best part of his game. He's got that home run hitting ability. And, that's really the one thing that sticks out because, speed like that, ability to make a big play like that at any time is something that, that's kind of rare. There's not a lot of guys that have that factor to them. So I think ETN wins this one by a landslide in terms of speed, although Najee is not slow by any means.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's hard to argue with it. Travis Etienne, super fast, got great burst. He can, take an outside zone 75 yards to the house. Definitely, I think his best attribute, for a guy who, that's really what he is a home run hitter for the most part. Got more to his game, which we'll get into it.
But, yeah,
I agree. Etienne wins the speed. We'll check that one.
Yeah, we'll check that one for Etienne. Yeah. So the next one on the list would be power. And again, this one seems kind of obvious, but this time in the opposite direction. Najee Harris, obviously a big guy, more physical runner. And not to knock Travis Etienne, because I feel like this is an area where he definitely improved over his time at Clemson. We saw him kind of run through contact a little better as he got older. But that being said, still, you can't really go against Najee with power here. He's a big guy, and he's had no issues with power that we've seen. So I'm going to go with him on this one.
Yeah, again, I agree. Obviously, I think Najee gets the nod in terms of power. I do think, like you said, Etienne, ran harder this year than we've seen. Mm-hmm. But obviously, I just think there's, a huge difference between, the collegiate level versus the NFL level, especially for a guy who's, a little undersized. So
right.
I feel way more confident in Najee Harris's power at the next level.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. I agree with that. So we'll move on to the next one, which would be agility. And I actually think this one's pretty close, but a little closer than some people might think. I'm going to lean Etienne just a touch here. I think he's got good agility. I think both these guys have good, not great agility. Yeah. And Etienne shows flashes where he'll make a great play, but I don't see it as consistently as some of the guys that are known for making more moves that we see like in the NFL. I can't really think of one off the top of my head. But yeah, I think he's got Najee by a hair. But again, this is like a sneaky underrated part of Najee's game. I feel like he's got really great feet, great agility for a guy of his size. But I'll toss that to Al to let his thoughts.
Yeah, I love that analysis because I do think this one is probably the closest, what they're closest at, and they do it in different ways. I think Etienne's kind of more the traditional, like he's the speed guy who's got the jukes, got the shakes, and all that. But Najee's got his own little wiggle in a different way. And early on in one of our first spotlight series, I kind of compared his game to Le'Veon Bell. And Le'Veon in his prime, like he was pretty wiggly in there in the hole. Incredible patience and just making guys miss in short areas. And even though it's not the agility, the 3-cone type stuff we might think of, it's just being able to make guys miss in short areas is incredibly important in the NFL, and just evading tackles. And I think it really is a, really bright spot in Najee's game, despite, being a bigger back. Because, there's a lot of people out there who'll compare him to Derrick Henry. And obviously Derrick Henry is, amazing in his own way. But I don't think Derrick Henry has that wiggle like Najee does.
I agree.
But Najee isn't quite the freight train that Derrick Henry is. So
yeah, that as well. Yeah.
Not saying he's better, but just a little different.
Right.
So yeah, I think very close in terms of quickness and agility, but I lean Najee.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Right.
We'll move on to the next one, which is quickness.
Okay.
And for me, I'm gonna lean Etienne again here. And again, I think Najee has good quickness overall, but I think Etienne, we see that quick kind of burst get through the hole, and then that's where that home run speed kind of takes over. I feel like he's got a good combination of both, where he's kind of quick to the hole or to the edge, and then that speed kicks in. Whereas Najee, you mentioned Derrick Henry. I feel like it's a little more like Derrick Henry, where it takes a little while to get the engine revving a little bit, and then once he's going, I mean, good luck. And then he's got the added ability of increased agility versus Henry. But that's again a different debate there.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of quickness, I kind of think burst almost. And in terms of burst, I really love Etienne's burst. I think that's one of the great things about his game. But again, I think Najee Harris has more wiggle and quickness than most big backs do.
Right.
Also, I don't think this is on our sheet, but in terms of hurdling ability, that college football playoff hurdle was pretty nice by Najee Harris. So I think he wins that category, but we didn't have that down as a real category. Just wanted to throw it in there.
Hurdling category unofficially goes to Najee Harris. Yeah.
Glad I took a win there. Making up my own categories here.
So we'll move on to the next is let's go with receiving first here. I'm going to say Najee Harris here. I think he's a little more polished as a receiver right now. But again, this is kind of an area where Etienne made a lot of progress over his 4 years at Clemson. We saw like a steady increase in his production at this level. I think it's an area he definitely improved in with his hands and his route running. But again, Najee just a little more refined for me, did a little more to me in the passing game when I watched him. It just looked a little more effortless, whereas Etienne, it still looks a little clunky sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Like when I think about Najee Harris, again, Le'Veon Bell was kind of my early comp, but in the passing game, he really does remind me of a David Johnson type, a Saquon Barkley a little bit. Just very fluid and effortless.
Forte.
Yeah, Matt Forte, like that. That was your comp early on.
Yeah.
So definitely like the the fluidity. Is that a word?
Oh yeah.
Fluidity. Yeah. Not sure if I said that perfect, but
I think you're right.
Yeah. But I like that about Najee Harris, where Etienne, I think it's way more of, can be a home run hitter on a screen pass. Can definitely, capable in the passing game for sure. But almost, I don't know, Jamal Charles is a good comparison where, you get him going in the screen game, short passage, and, Etienne can really make a defense hurt. But I just think Najee is more of an all-around receiving back at this point in his career.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. And that leaves us with our last kind of piece of the puzzle here for how these guys stack up, and that's vision.
Yes.
Vision obviously being an important part of being a running back. Think of every Trent Richardson meme you've ever seen of him running into the back of his offensive line while there's a gaping hole to the right or left of him. Obviously a very important thing. And with this, I kind of want to lead Najee a little bit. But this one might be the closest to it. It might be a wash. The more I think about it, it's different. Najee probably a little more patient, and for that reason, vision. I think a bigger part of his game. Whereas Etienne, maybe it's him just kind of looking for that home run a little too often too, where he's maybe a little less patient, and he might not see the hole because he's trying to bounce it out to the outside, things like that. I don't necessarily think vision's an issue for him at all, but I think in terms of just, when it comes down to just vision, period, I think I trust Najee a little bit more than Etienne at this point.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And I like what you said about, being the patient runner, just kind of like seeing the hole a little more. I will say this, so you mentioned Trent Richardson in the memes. I do think, it's a little scary when we're evaluating these, running backs coming from elite programs like Alabama and like Clemson, because obviously, their offense line, most games, they're dominating. The holes are usually pretty wide open, hard to miss. And in the NFL, it's a little different. So I think vision is somewhat hard to judge when you're looking at these running backs coming out of these, top tier schools. So to be determined maybe a little bit at the NFL level, but I lean Najee now as well. And can I create one more category?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I think this kind of goes along with receiving ability, but almost pass protection.
Okay.
And the reason why that's important for you fantasy gamers out there is, as you know, coaches like players on the field on third down who can, pick up blitzes and help protect that quarterback. And a lot of times these rookie running backs struggle to get on the field early because they're not great in pass pro.
Yep.
And I don't get me wrong, I have not scouted these guys' pass protection, but just because of size and stature, I tend to think Najee would have an easier time blocking some blitzing linebackers.
Right.
But I've never actually, scouted his game for pass protection. But I lean Najee just from a sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Najee on this one as well. I feel like just when my mind goes to watching, Clemson, not to say Etienne's a bad pass blocker by any means, but I can think of some specific reps where I feel like he just kind of got blown back a little bit. And again, that's something that he can work on and kind of iron out too. I would say he still had more good reps than bad reps in terms of pass protection. But yeah, I think with the size and stature of Najee. I like him just a little bit at this point, but I think that's an area where Etienne, it's not necessarily a weakness, but he can kind of keep improving on that going forward too.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah. So I think that's all our categories, which means
time for the spiels.
This is where we fight, throw it down, see who wins,
yeah.
Make our cases.
All right,
who wants to go first?
I think you went first last time, so if you don't mind, I'll take the first
the lead,
this time. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm arguing for Mr. Travis Etienne. And what can I say about Travis Etienne that hasn't already been said, you might be wondering. And the answer is not much, because we know a lot about Travis Etienne. He's been, a household name for what feels like forever now, having a decent-sized role as a true freshman, and then just every year kind of adding on to that. He's been productive. He's finished top 10 in the Heisman voting twice. And that's with the quarterback that people say is the greatest thing since Andrew Luck, with T. Higgins, who is a fringe first-round receiver, just missed it. Justin Ross probably going to be a first-round receiver. A talented, loaded offense, and this guy still finds a way to produce at a high level and be a star on that offense. As we mentioned before, home run hitting speed that's kind of rare for guys like that, the ability to pull away and just change the game with one play. His burst, too, a big strength of his. And again, too, we've seen him make so much progress, too. And this is kind of where I like to, kind of sink in on this take a little bit more, is because I feel like he's got those natural gifts that not many guys have with his speed. And then in terms of everything else, every area that was a weakness has become improved every single year he was at Clemson. We've seen his contact balance get better each year. His toughness between the tackles continue to get better. He's been more physical. What we've seen, too, is an increase in his ability in the passing game, more catches, more rack. And I think that's another area where, if he can become a more proficient route runner, too, this guy can be an absolute problem at the next level if he continues to progress like he's doing right now. But yeah, overall, he's a good character guy, which is always important. It's not something that necessarily is important maybe when you're drafting in Dynasty Fantasy, but you got to think these guys, you're in for the long haul. So, it's a positive when they come in with no character concerns. Mm-hmm. He seems to be a great kid. He puts the work in, as you've seen, with the progress over time. And I think he's going to slide in on whichever team he ends up on and be able to, make big plays and then hopefully continue to progress as a pass catcher too. And I really think the sky's the limit for him. And whereas I feel like Najee right now is more refined, more polished, he's just kind of really good right now at everything. I don't really know how much more he can improve, whereas with Etienne, he could come in right now and be like a middle of the road back. But if he continues to improve with that toughness between the tackles and his receiving and route running, this is a guy that we could see regularly in the top 10 as a fantasy running back. Again, work to be put in to get to that point, but based on what we've seen in the past, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to put that work in and be able to reach those heights. So that's me planting my flag on the Travis Etienne camp. I got a lot of faith in him, and I think he's going to do big things.
Ooh, I like that. That was good.
Thank you.
You had me swinging my opinion a little bit.
Yeah, there we go. That's kind of when I wanted to go first, too, because you swayed me so much last time.
But not too much. I'm still ready to stick to my guy, Najee. Love Etienne, too. we don't want you guys to think we're all anti the,
Yeah,
we love both prospects just like we did Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith. But I got to stick with Najee. And for me, it really comes down to I see Najee Harris as a complete 3-down workhorse back, a guy who's going to be durable, 220-plus pounds. I'm looking at, running backs like Saquon Barkley, like Le'Veon Bell in his prime, like, Melvin Gordon in his prime, like Ezekiel Elliott, like a Joe Mixon. These guys who are 220-plus pounds, can be a 3-down back. They're active in the passing game, good in all phases, can be an all-around bell cow, be a top 5 fantasy running back in the right year, but solid top 12-ish running back year in and year out. And, in terms of Etienne, I love a lot of those things you said, but I'm a little worried about the durability. We don't know exactly how big he is, but looks to be on the smaller side, and I just don't know how he'll hold up in the NFL. But it's hard to knock a guy for something, that we're just speculating. Right. But with Najee, just none of those concerns, a lot of peace of mind knowing, he looks like he can, handle 300 touches a year with ease. I talked about Derrick Henry earlier in the show because, both 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds. But in some ways, Najee Harris is almost more impressive as a prospect because he is better in the passing game. He does have a little more agility. Not quite the freight train that Derrick Henry is, but in some ways, I like his game more. He's one of the most exciting running back prospects I think we've seen in the past couple of years. But we've had some good ones recently, so don't want to get too carried away in that sense. But I love Najee Harris's game. For me this year, he's the RB1. Just bell cow is what he screams to me.
Yeah, so, I hear you.
Go draft Najee Harris. not Etienne.
I like that take, too, on Henry, especially, because people compare him naturally. Same school, similar build. He's not quite as big as Henry is, but, I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. He's a more complete prospect. And just look what Derrick Henry's doing right now. Again, obviously, Najee not quite the freight train, the bulldozer that Derrick Henry is, but a lot of similarities in their game, and he has, some of those other aspects that Henry either still doesn't have or didn't have coming out of college. So he's already in a really good spot.
I love it when the doc agrees with me. It just makes me feel so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, don't forget, leave us in the comments. Let us know who won the argument or just who you think's better, who you're going to be drafting first in your Masters rookie drafts this summer. Also, we're looking to do plenty more versus shows as we've touched on a lot of college prospects. And it doesn't just have to be, the top 2 running backs versus the top 2, make it a little different. Maybe a Rondale Moore versus I don't know. Who do you want to see Rondale Moore versus?
Rashad Bateman.
Yeah,
complete clash of styles there.
I like that. Yeah. We can get unique with this.
And the same thing too, and I think we mentioned this on the first one too. If there's a pro player versus battle you'd like for us to kind of tackle there. I mean, I know Alec mentioned AJ Brown versus DK Metcalf. Anything like that too. Feel free to toss it in the comments. And we'll kind of go from there. We listen to the people here, so
absolutely.
Whatever you want to see, we'll give it to you.
All right. As always, thanks for listening. Sign up for a Dynasty League if you haven't already. Loads of fun, year-round, nonstop.
Yep. Draft season's coming, so it's about that time.
It is.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Take care.